new there we go. Okay, it's good it's being recorded. But I'm in the process of trying to share the link with more folks for the change that we're experiencing. But yes, Cheryl, thank you. I am here with Faustina and Elizabeth, who are directly impacted by this. And we'll speak to that. That's all I can say right now. I'm juggling, but this is there's Faustina and there's Elizabeth. So they will speak for themselves. So I'm gonna try to get Felipe on this call now that the link has changed. I'm muting myself, but thank you, Cheryl.
Felipe is out here. Yeah, Felipe is here.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Wes, do you want to say something? Wes is our communications social.
Hi there, everyone. I'm really looking forward to this meeting. I'm happy to be here. Unfortunately, my camera is having some issues. I've been trying to fix them off the mic, but I'm very excited to get started.
Mine too. I don't know. It keeps turning me upside down, but if I'm just going to continue if I do turn upside down.
Well, all right. Quickly, I just want to say myself off. The overarching question that I think most of us are wanting answered today is which agencies, that's the community-based organizations and or governmental departments, have the capacity to coordinate the efforts of getting direct services to those who are impacted by this levee breach. And when you're formulating that answer, this is to the presenters, and Io's going to do all of that. When you're formulating that answer to this question and the questions that Io will ask you, please use your lens, the lens of your organization's direct work to spotlight what will be of assistance in creating this centralization of resources and direct services. And feel free to elaborate. Bearing in mind, you may want to put the situation in context of a larger societal issue, the impact of the damage done to the communities as a whole or to specific groups within the Pajaro Valley community, and possible timelines or anything else you believe will elucidate the urgency of hope and community support. So that is the overarching intent of this forum. And I want to introduce you to Io Banjo, who is our program director. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Io Banjo, Program Director for Santa Cruz Black, and I'll be hosting today's forum. I just want to go ahead and invite some of our panelists up and introduce them. And so thank you so much for being here with us today. So first, I want to introduce District 4 Supervisor Felipe Hernandez. Hey, Felipe, how you doing today? Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Hello, how you doing? Doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I also want to highlight a local farm entrepreneur and owner, Ed Ortega. You should be able to see him on his screen right now. Hey, Ed, how's it going?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for making time to be here. And then we also have the Community Action Board representation, Maria Elena. Let me see where her cursor is. Oh, here we go. I found you.
Hi,
Maria,
everyone.
you want to say hi to everybody?
Yes, buenas tardes, good evening. Thank you for Santa Cruz Black for inviting me to be part of this conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. And so we'll be talking to y'all as our main panelists to talk about the state of everything at the Levee Breach. We had a breach happen today, sorry, not today, last week. And we want to talk about the impact that it's had on our community. And so we want to be able to kind of get an understanding as to the context of what happened with the Levee Breach, get an understanding of the state of the damage right now. So where are we at right now? How's it looking? What's the response been like? What's the timeline for the healing? How long is it going to take in terms of rebuilding our community back, right? And what does it look like for addressing the needs of the families that have been impacted? Over 2,000 folks have been impacted by this flooding. And then also, how can we support organizations at the forefront of providing direct services and engagement to this community? So we'll be hearing from y'all and kind of getting a sense of what we should be doing moving forward when it comes to addressing this levee. So let me go ahead and start with a little bit of context to get folks familiar with, just kind of the infrastructure of this levee. We've seen flooding occur about 5 times since 1995, where floodwaters were, seeping through the levee and causing erosion of the sides, and it eventually flowed over the levee. In 1995, 2 people had drowned, and there was economic damage that was estimated between $50 and $95 million. Flooding then occurred again in 1997, and in 1998, actually, President Clinton issued a disaster declaration for this region. And then more recently, there was a near flooding event in 2017, and again this past January. So Pajaro residents were evacuated for 1 week. So the levee was built in 1949, and the breach had occurred, to our understanding, due to extreme weather, destroying South County infrastructure and flooding nearly 2,000 folks. So Felipe, can you give us a little bit more information as to what happened with the levee?
So, we've been, let me see if my mic's on. Yes. So, ever since 95, there's been a concerted effort to do a 100-year flood protection on the levee. Back then, Zone 7 was formed. It's a partnership of different counties, cities to address the flood zone. And, we were working at the time with different congressional representatives from Samfar to, actually, it goes back even further too. The Panetta Senior and Panetta, when we had Panetta, and now Lofgren. And if anyone has read the article that came out on the LA Times, I think it illustrates how unequitable the funding formula was to get these big projects passed. And so the LA Times illustrates how they have this cost-benefit analysis system where the surrounding communities around any project, you get more points scored if the property values are more expensive, right, around the community where the projects are served. And so you got these big projects around the Delta that have higher property values that always get, funded. And in Santa Clara as well, they get funded. And we have these projects in Pajaro and Watsonville where you have, district, council district 2, that's predominantly Latino, low income, lower property values, and then you have the senior community that's fixed income, and so it's of course it didn't score as high, and so we still pressed on. We formed JPAs, to address this issue, and we went through different congressional Congress members, and it was always a struggle. And we went through different admirals and different generals that would come visit us. And, I think the Panettas did a great job in representing us in terms of the river. And I think at some point they what ended up happening is when Jimmy came in, and there was a movement to change the funding formulas, and it changed it from this criteria that went from the cost benefit analysis to a more equity-based formula. And that's when we're able, but this is a process of 30 years too, mind you. This didn't just happen overnight. And immediately when it changed, when the funding formula changed, we're able to get the 100-year flood project approved. And even then it was still, it took like a year and a half, but we were the first county in the United States to receive a project based on the new funding criteria, the new equity criteria in the country for this flood project. But I urge people to read the articles on I think the Chronicle kind of took a portion of it and tried to do the same article with it. But read the LA Times article. It illustrates what our struggles were during those 30 years. I only faced like 11 years of it on there. I was on the Zone 7 and the new Finance Authority. And now the new PERVMA, now that we have it approved, it's the new body that oversees the project.
And Felipe, I just wanted to actually ask you, I know that there hasn't been a state of emergency declared yet by the federal government. Do you know if this is part of the agenda of Governor Newsom so that FEMA could provide more resources to be deployed for the levee?
I know that Monterey County is getting, what needs to happen is that all the cities need to put together the assessment of all the damages. And so that right now there's code enforcement and the environmental is in those communities, assessing the damage and finding out what the public infrastructure is and assessing what the damage is so that they can assess what the total cost is. And they need that in order to move forward for the county. It needs to go county first, then the state, and then the federal. There's a process, right? And so that's what they're doing in Monterey County.
Got you. And the county, have they already achieved that yet?
No, they're still assessing. Just like we're still, we're still assessing. We still got a few houses underwater just in College Lake right now that we're still pumping water out.
Yeah.
So it's the damage is still there that needs to be assessed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that there will continue to be a push to get that emergency declaration hopefully achieved so that we can foster and pipeline more resources to this levee breach. We'll talk a little bit more about the crisis response teams that are currently being formulated. And I know, Felipe, you had a really strong hand in going door to door and kind of warning residents about the flooding that was coming there. So thank you for your support there. We're going to circle back to that once we get to the state of damage conversation. But I kind of want to piggyback on you, Maria Elena. I know you run the Community Action Board and you guys have been providing so many services and centralizing a whole bunch of resources for this levee. I just want to get your response to that reporting that Felipe was talking about, where the Los Angeles Times had said that the officials had known for decades that the levee was vulnerable, but never prioritized repairs, in part because they believed it did not make financial sense to protect the low-income area. And we know that in 2021, an Army Corps webpage described the levee as no longer providing the design level of protection. So in your perspective, how could this have been prevented for our community? And, who holds responsibility when we talk about so many families that are struggling right now, who are displaced? How can we give them some sense of condolence, with the situation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ayo. That's such an important question. And thank you, Supervisor, for framing kind of the political lens, right? That I certainly don't know about, but I will tell the group that most of you know that I'm born and raised in Watsonville, and Pajaro is our neighborhood, right? It's part and connected. The families from Pajaro work in Watsonville. The families in Pajaro get services in Watsonville. It is a connected community, even though it's divided by county lines. My reaction to the LA Times and to the history is probably like everybody else's reaction on this call, right? We understand what, what oppression and systemic racism is. And we understand what that means historically for people of color and people who are vulnerable, Black people and Latino people in this community. And so, it's unfortunate, but we got to name it what it is. And we have to have the courage to name it what it is. I can tell you that today I am not only representing Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, but I'm also here to represent the South County Triage, which is a group of nonprofit agencies that has existed since the pandemic, that has come together to help build a community-based organization response to support las familias, to support the folks who've been impacted, who are particularly right now at the shelter and also parked all across our community, living in cars with their children, waiting for the bridge to open up and for them to be allowed to go back to their homes. And I will say that that this response, the community-based organizations are doing what we always do, and that is to help support our government partners fill gaps, right? And I will tell you that CAB's role in filling those gaps was felt immediately. We were part of the press conference on Saturday, the 11th, where one of our staff who is trilingual and has Mixteco, which is an indigenous language for most of the families who live in Pajaro. She was part of the press release, the initial press conference, on the 11th. And our team of Mixteco speakers, of Spanish speakers, have been deployed to the fairgrounds every day. And we are coordinating not just the CAB language experts, but language experts from the school district, from PVPSA, from COE, and forgive me if I forget you in this conversation. But so we've been coordinating scheduling of language experts. And I want to say Indigenous language is critical, and our county partners also needed help with Spanish. There wasn't enough people with Spanish capacity. So we've been helping those gaps, along with, because of the support of the philanthropic Community Foundation of Santa Cruz and Community Foundation of Monterey. There's a program that immediately got put into place called the Storm Emergency Assistance Program. And what that program has done is that to date has distributed about $800,000 in economic relief for people impacted by the floods. So that's direct, either gift cards, direct checks, or even Venmo payments. We do what we got to do to get the money out there. And that's in collaboration with Community Bridges. And a big shout out to CB, I don't know if they're here, but a big shout out to Community Bridges in collaboration with Catholic Charities. And we're working with Casa de la Cultura. And if you haven't heard that agency before, please make a note of it. Casa de la Cultura is run by Sister Dolores Rosa. She has been in Pajaro and been the heart of community-based response in Pajaro for decades. And she and her partner, it's two nuns who are supporting those communities. Her facility was damaged. I don't know what her assessment was in terms of red, yellow, or green at this point, if she's going to be able to go back and when. But she has supported the agricultural, Mixteco, and Indigenous language families over the decades. And so I want to acknowledge what the Casa de la Cultura has been doing. I want to acknowledge what the sisters have been doing, because it has been critical work, and we need to ensure that she is supported through the next phase of recovery.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for plugging for plugging those essential resources. I think that's really critical. And I know that I just want to highlight really quickly, we have Cesar here today as well. He's going to be joining us from the MILPA Collective and talking a little bit more about the overall response from the participant, from the organizer point of view. So let me go ahead and find his, there we go. I found you. All right, Cesar, you want to say hi to the team?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Cesar Lara with Milpa, and also been in the community for a number of years wearing a labor hat out in the community. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry, so I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping you on the pinned with everybody else. So let me go ahead and jump to Ed, and then I will bring you in shortly. Thank you so much, Cesar. And so, Ed, I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience with the levee. So at this point, the breach has grown to about 400 feet. I know the county is working on efforts to plug the breach with granite boulders. Reports are showing that it could take 1 or more weeks for the repair to actually be completed to its full height and width. So there was a report from CoreLogic that actually estimated that there was about 6,000 single and multifamily residential properties with a combined reconstruction value of around $2.8 billion that are at risk still of flooding following the overflow of the levee. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit more as a farm business owner within the community. I know that you're very connected with other folks in the agricultural community as well. Just the first check-in with you, how are you doing? And how is your business doing right now with the levee breach and everything that's been going on?
Well, it was all during the rains. I farm on both sides, Santa Cruz and Monterey County side of the levee. So we've been watching the levee grow and come down and grow. And, it was actually very easy. It could have broken on the Santa Cruz County side as well. We have a lot of ranches flooded on both sides of the levee. This year I wasn't affected to an extent that I could have. Last year I would have had a lot more ranches underwater, just for crop rotations. For strawberries, we rotate from different ranches. And so this particular year I was very fortunate that I was not on other ranches where we were last year would have been completely flooded. So it's tough on the farm side of it to see this happen. A lot of people do. They have a lot of work on the crops, and more than anything, agriculture is about relationships. We have relationships with our families that help us out at work, and it's going to be really tough moving forward here with the ranches that were flooded. How to offer a moving forward. How do you move forward with your crop has been destroyed? How do you move forward with the relationships of your employees and your families that help you out? So that's going to be a tough deal for farms to get over and get to some sort of normalcy. In Pajaro, and it's actually all the other industries that help agriculture. We have their tractors, tractors. We have a lot of different
audio.
That
Oh no.
have a lot of other industries that we depend on, and they also have a lot of families they have to worry about, and so it's going to be kind of it's a tough deal moving forward with having this type of flood, and especially not knowing if next year we're going to go through the same thing again. Really, I don't believe the rains were that bad to have caused a breach. So now we're worried about next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was going to say, I was going to ask how the floods are going to impact yield for your business and for other farm workers around you, and the costs of produce in the coming years. Do you have a sense of that trajectory?
I don't think we're going to see the flood change the cost in the supermarket. Really what is happening is just going to be the for us in this area to move forward. I think there are a lot of fields that did go underwater, even in Salinas and all around. But trying for if it were my ranch that went underwater this year, and that could have easily happened, could have easily been me. But I put myself in the position of the farmers, and how do you move forward with your families and your employees, and how do you offer that? There will be for them, there will be crop losses, and but for the general public to see that in supermarkets, I don't think we're going to see it in the supermarkets. I think it's more localized here for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know ways that the community can support farm workers and folks who own farm businesses who've been impacted negatively by these floods? What are ways that community members can support them and some of the short-term needs that they have?
From the farmer side of point of view, it's just going to be tough. I think I'm not. I don't think I'm in a position to even answer how to help the people of Pajaro. I'm other than to let's get some normalcy back, and let's. Here we are already in April, close to April. By this time last year, we were all at work. We were all harvesting crops, and this year with these. We're a easy month behind schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go ahead and make sure that we can follow up with you, Ed, because I know that this is a serious endeavor, and we want to make sure that as a community that we can support everything that the farm worker community has contributed to the entire South County economy and the community. Like you said, I love what you said about community relationships. It's all about community relationships. And so how can we be there for each other in this time? I think that's really incredibly important. So thank you so much for speaking a little bit more about that. I kind of want to check in with our folks, one of our family members that were affected directly by the floods, Faustina and her daughter Elizabeth. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them up right now to the pin. Let me go ahead and remove this person. All right, perfect. Hi, Faustina. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, how y'all doing today? Yeah, Chris, can you go ahead and move the laptop a little bit closer to them so we can hear them a little bit? Perfect. Awesome. I think we can hear you now. Thank you so much for coming here today. And your family, Faustina, is absolutely in our prayers. We know that your family was one of many who had their homes, impacted negatively by these floods and were flooded by the Levee Breach. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and where you were when the breach occurred?
On Friday, on the day of when the flood happened, we were at the house. I was about to fall asleep until my brother told me, "Oh yeah, did you hear that?" And then we went outside. There was firefighters with a loud, and they were really loud. They didn't tell us anything until the second time another firefighter came and told us evacuate the water coming away. And all our neighbors came inside their houses.
Oh no, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but it seems like there's some audio issues. Chris, can you just double check to make sure that the Bluetooth connection is connected to the laptop and not the headphones that is in right now? Just to make sure we got some clear audio from them.
That should be better.
All right, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry about that. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. All right, sorry. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more again about your experience and where you were at when the breach occurred.
Yes, so I was telling, I was where we were at the end, all the neighbors left their houses at that time. And mostly like they say like former families didn't come until like 6 more times the fighters came. That was like around 3. We left. My mom didn't want to go because like it was like our home, everything was there, but we were coming back and then we saw the water coming all our way. And then we were like, no, we have to leave. So we left, and it was really sad leaving your home and like seeing the next day everything got flooded. It was really sad. Yeah,
Yeah, I know, I know.
yeah.
And Mom, how are you doing? You know, I know that some of the belongings were flooded as well. And you know, your daughter, you know, had to experience some of the you know, initial trauma with the flooding. You know, how are you doing right now? I know you're staying with Chris right now, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. How is that going right now?
it's great. Yeah.
I hope Chris is a food chef, so Chris should be hopefully making you guys some mole. You know, he runs my mom's mole, soft plug. So I hope he's making you some free food, and if he's not, you let us know, and we'll go up there and make sure that he makes it for you. Okay.
Yes.
And Elizabeth, could you tell us a little bit more? You know, I'm going to come back to you and ask you a little bit about your education and how this flooding has impacted some of your schooling. But first, do you know any information about the damage that has been done to your house? Do you know what has been damaged? Do you know if there's anything so far, any information that you have as to the standing of your home?
I have seen some pictures, but not like inside of the house, but like other houses around there is really bad, but not at like because we live like in trailers, so it's like kind of top, like our house is like up. So, but like the first when you come in the little mobile parking area, like you can see the damage of like the first homes is really bad. Our house, I don't know how it is right now, but I seen some pictures and there's a lot of water still. Like we had a storage house outside, and I think that one got destroyed because we had a lot of things there, but and we also left the car. So I don't know until like we come back, we will see how much the damage was.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to follow up and keep you updated and see what we can do as a community to support some of the repairs to you and your family. We are here as a community for you, and I want you to know that we're all here to support. So, you know, absolutely, we're going to follow up with you and see where you guys are at. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about your experience. I'm going to circle back with you, but Felipe, I want to get a sense as to your estimates of, you know, how extensive the damage is to our community from an infrastructure perspective. What is your sense of the you know, assessments there?
Like the cost?
You know, I think for Santa Cruz County, our infrastructure is probably over 13 million. But in Pajaro, I know that there's probably like close to 100 and somewhere between 130 and 150 homes that are damaged. That's what I've gathered so far, but I'm not sure what the total assessment in Pajaro is. But you know, it's that we'll wait and find out on Friday what the total damage is in Pajaro. But I know here in terms of infrastructure, we do have about over 13 million in damage just in this storm alone that we had. But you know, I do notice that we do have our one of our directors of our Office of Emergency Response here, and he's been on the line trying to help out Monterey County all day today. So I don't know if you'd like to come on too, David Reed.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm happy to listen and participate in whatever way would be helpful. And Supervisor Hernandez is right. Our county sustained significant damage just since March 9th, but nothing really in comparison to what the Pajaro community is going through. So certainly our role has been to try and support our community members and support the county of Monterey in supporting and sheltering the folks that have been impacted and the family that we just heard from. So I'm happy to be a part of the conversation in whatever way would be helpful for folks this evening.
Absolutely. Dave, do you have any other additional information that you think the community might find helpful about the state of the damage right now, and any updates when it comes to the current, infrastructure of the levee, how long it might take for repair?
Yeah, so the original Levee Breach location just upstream from the community of Pajaro has been restored and repaired. So it's completed, returned to the original elevation. It was, as you said, placed with rock, so that rock can let water go through. So the Department of Water Resources was placing plastic over it to add an additional layer of protection. So at least for now, that damage has been restored to kind of more or less previous conditions. There is some other damage to the levee right at the Highway 1 bridge. That was what was causing the closure of Highway 1 for a number of days, and the profound impact that had on community. That damage is not yet begun to be repaired, and so that still needs to be done. So that's a little update on that piece.
Yeah, and do you know the communication between the families who have been impacted in terms of how they're getting updates on these assessments?
Yeah, I would say Maria Elena and her team are a big part of that communication channel, as she articulated. I know the County of Monterey is working hard to establish the critical life and safety, health and safety elements to allow Pajaro residents to return home, primarily either a sewer system repairs. The sewer line was severed right at Highway 1, so there's no functioning sewer in Pajaro. So they're trying to either set up porta potties to allow folks to get in sooner, or those repairs have been ongoing today as we speak. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the evacuation order is going to get lifted in the next few days. From what I'm hearing, their efforts to get potable water and sewer reestablished for the community there.
Yeah, that's absolutely great to hear. Thank you so much for that update. I'm going to circle back with you in a few minutes. I want to invite Cesar to talk a little bit more about your perspective on the sense of the damage and what Milpa Collective has been working on to support some of the needs of the communities out there.
First, thank you for organizing this and having this critical conversation, very timely. And I just left an event that actually Felipe stopped by, where we had 100 farm workers collecting gift cards with a number of community agencies and labor unions, trying to help labor unions with labor unions, and had the opportunity to pull aside Robert Weavis's district director and Glenn Church, the county supervisor for North Monterey County. And that was the question that a lot of the residents were asking when we were there talking to them. When are we going to be able to go home? And the answer is going to be soon. I think a critical answer that Dave kind of alluded to is making sure that the water and sewer are ready to go. And by all reports is that we might have a fix for that. The water might be not good enough to drink, but it might be good enough to go to the bathroom, take a shower. And that was a critical part that got fixed. And as like Marilena said, this is a clear example of structural racism in our community. We've had beyond just the 1990s and beyond the 1980s, we've had a number of generations of neglect in Pajaro and communities like Pajaro, and we need to get that answered. And I think one thing that I want to lift up before we leave is, where is the federal government in all this in regards to the not an immediate response that we have for residents in Pajaro, and where is the long-term structural changes that need to happen? It looks like we fixed the money problem in regards to servicing the levee. At what level and everything, I'll believe it when I see it. And I think, Felipe is going to be a major actor in that as a supervisor on the Santa Cruz County side. Glenn Church and with Luis Alejo there, that, he's a supervisor in Salinas, but still is in the middle of everything in Pajaro because that's where he came from. And he's the current chair of the Board of Supervisors. But we need the Office of Emergency Services at the state level to declare this a statewide emergency declaration. And at this point, we're waiting for the county to finish their assessments. By all reports, the county finished their building assessments earlier today. And the Office of Emergency Services will be in town on Friday for a critical meeting. But you have to realize that the County Board of Supervisors in Monterey County did what they had to do and declared it. And now they needed to collect data, which they did. And now the state needs to bundle all this information, not just for Monterey County, but they have to declare this disaster for all of California. There's other counties in California that have been declared disaster areas. So the state needs to get their packet together basically and send it up to the federal government. In January, it was really clear. It was such major damage that from day one, and Dave is hopefully shaking his head agreed with me. It was no question about it. It was without even collecting all the data, it was clear that we had the damage. This was a different kind of damage. This was structural racism, whatever. This was a levee that was not built to be there as long as it did. And it wasn't built to get the impact that we had in these historic waters, because it was water on top of water. There's a point when soil cannot absorb more water. And we got to that point, and then it got to the point where because of neglect and all the other things that we just named earlier, the levees broke. And we weren't anticipating that, even though we knew it was going to happen sooner than later. And now it's the acute stuff. But one of the things that I also want to talk about that wasn't declared is, what is this impact to the farm working community in our regions? The season usually starts in now, but it's going to be delayed closer to May. And how agricultural seasons work in the Pajaro and Salinas Valley is that farm workers, a lot of them are documented. There's one report that says 70-80% of farm workers in our region are undocumented. Monterey County per capita has the highest percentage of any other county in California for undocumented individuals. And so they usually work 9 months of the year, save to try and survive the winter. And hopefully by March, they're able to go back to work. That is not happening, not just in Pajaro, but across our regions. And so there's going to be a lot of pain happening in our community. So get back to your original question. I think that we have a target, the Office of Emergency Services at the state level. If they don't declare it a statewide emergency and pass it to the federal government, we're not going to get FEMA support. Yeah. And so we need to figure that out. And second is that there's going to be a lot of pain happening, and we're hoping that people are able to go back later this week. I don't know the exact date, but the big news is that the sewer and the water supply are at a healthy level, so you don't need porta potties that somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning needs to go to the bathroom. They have to go, up the street and around the corner for portable potties. And just imagine the security of doing that. So there's some fixes, but to Marilena's point, this is structural racism that we need to not forget about a month from now or 2 months from now when people are back in their houses.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Cesar. And, I know that, there's folks even in the chat talking about, the importance of the urgency and the response to the levee breach. Seems like there was a delay in that response. We'll get to that. I just want to make sure that we can transition and start talking about the timeline for healing when it comes to rebuilding this community. We know that, as global warming intensifies, the local water cycle is going to release more extreme storms that worsen flood dangers. So we know that in 2021, Senator John Laird of Santa Cruz authored a bill that required the state to completely fund the levee repair project. It was funded by the Infrastructure Jobs Act and state funds, and the bill directed the Department of Water Resources to pay 100% of the state's cost for reconstruction of the Pajaro Watsonville levee system. And I believe repair is slated to begin in 2 years in 2025. You can let me know if that is incorrect. Okay, cool. And so 2026, Felipe, correct? Okay, so California Governor Newsom has authorized the National Guard and water system teams to repair the levee and prepare for upcoming atmospheric river conditions. So Felipe or Dave, can you talk a little bit more about what projects are underway to remedy this immediate situation from a county perspective? Maybe we can start by talking a little bit more about the delay, speaking more to that, just so folks can get some clarity as to where that delay happened, and then talk a little bit more about current projects being administered to kind of address the situation.
When you talk about the delay, in terms of the delay for the levee project, or which in the terms of, what do you mean by delay?
It seems that there was, yeah, no, you're good. It seems like there was a slight delay in the response from the Levee Breach to the county response. Can you speak a little bit to that? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, that's probably Monterey County, probably someone from Monterey County to answer that. But
okay,
I think that in terms of us, I mean, we made sure that we opened up shelters immediately, and then allowed the transition for Monterey County on the second day, allowed them to take it over. But I'd have someone from Monterey to speak to that.
Yeah.
But
Cesar,
I
did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say it. So you know, it is easy to say, why wasn't the county of Monterey or Santa Cruz or anybody's prepared? This is an unanticipated emergency that doesn't happen every day. Last time it happened was 96, 95. I was
2017.
But you know, but I'm
1995.
Yeah, 95 was the biggest like flood,
the major breach, yeah,
flood damage. I think this was a clear example of people pointing fingers with each other. My understanding, and I heard from this from directly from county staff level people, because I help with labor unions, is that the shelter was open quickly, and then it was a question of who's going to operate it. Santa Cruz County said, these are Monterey County residents. And Monterey County was waiting for Santa Cruz to activate it. So the stories I heard were sad and devastating for the first 48 hours of the shelter opening. It was, sometimes you're like, controlled chaos. No, there was chaos at a worse level. And a lot of people in Pajaro felt it really quick. When you walk into a facility that is bare bones staff and nobody knows what they're doing, and it was all over the place. It's gotten a little bit corrected, but the way that the Santa Cruz County side would run a shelter is very different than what the Monterey County side would run a shelter. 2 months from now, we could argue about which way is the best way, but right now we have the way that we have right now, and there's a lot of heartache happening, but there's a lot of corrections, but we're still not there yet. And one of the biggest complaints I heard from residents, and this is a room of 100 people, Felipe was there with me earlier today, but these were United Farm Workers members, Driscoll, just union members that live in Pajaro that were heavily impacted. We gave them gift cards and we're helping them because there's a lot of trauma. Is that there's a lot of fear of people at the shelter getting a level of service and people outside the shelter living in their homes. Living in their cars or in neighbors' homes that are not getting the same level of service that those that are sleeping in the shelter are facing. And there's a lot of criticism on that, not on the Santa Cruz County staff, but on the Monterey County staff side. Because at this point, the majority of the people at the shelter, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, are Monterey County employees versus Santa Cruz County.
Yeah, I know, but the Pajaro Valley though, it's shared kind of, on the line between Santa Cruz and Monterey counties. I really want to, Dave, I know you wanted to respond to the conversation. I want to invite you to respond, but I also want to kind of get an understanding of, there should be some cross coordination with Monterey County, right? They ultimately, if Monterey isn't, reaching out first saying, hey, like, let's address this, there should be some kind of outreach from Santa Cruz County when it comes to that kind of delay. I know that's an issue that has been coming up consistently. So I kind of want to invite you to respond to the conversation and again, speak to, that cross coordination piece. Is there issues going on right now between cross coordination, communication with Monterey County?
Yeah, I mean, I think Cesar and Supervisor Hernandez are right that the initial implementation of the shelter to support community, maybe shall we say, was not as effective for the community as possible. We had opened that shelter ahead of the breach because we had folks under evacuation order. So the county of Santa Cruz had set up that shelter, the Watsonville Vets Hall, and had staged the Cabrillo College Gymnasium for shelter operations. And then I received a call at about midnight, the night it breached, from the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center in Monterey, informing me that the levee had breached on their side and that they were going to begin evacuating residents. And then our shelter staff, our county shelter staff, moved into action at about 3 a.m. I got a call from our shelter manager at 3 a.m. that same morning, standing up in more capacity the fairgrounds. But it was certainly, as Cesar said, an unprecedented level of impact, right? We did not anticipate or staff our shelter to meet the needs of Pajaro being flooded. That was not our operational goal. Our operational goal was to set up a shelter to meet the needs of both Watsonville residents and Santa Cruz County residents that we had under evacuation order. So it was a different scale, and then definitely lots of lessons learned. There's no question that we can do it better. As Maria Elena said, there's lots of ways in which we can partner more effectively with our community partners to be better in taking care of our community in disaster. So I will not go and say that we are perfect by any means. In terms of coordination and ongoing coordination every day, we're in conversations with Monterey County. They are running the shelter. We are providing some support, but not much. Our CBOs and Maria Elena and Ray Cancino from Community Bridges and Community Action Board are doing a huge lift. We've got state partners with the California Department of Social Services, American Red Cross, and others. But it is a Monterey County shelter run at a Santa Cruz County facility. I just talked with the fairgrounds interim CEO, and the fairgrounds is an amazing asset for our community. We need to take care of it, improve it, build resilience in the infrastructure there, so that it's available. Hopefully that we don't have to use it as often as we have this year, but there's lots of learnings and lots of opportunity to improve for sure. And I'll stop there and happy to talk more.
Yeah, and I want to invite Maria Elena to talk more and respond to this. And I just want to say before you begin that, that is really important. Community engagement, communication, and sending information to the families who have been impacted is going to be critically important to pipeline resources to them. Whether or not it's Monterey or Santa Cruz, that is unfortunate that that's been such a stark difference in response. And so we do need to figure out what that communication looks like and how we elevate organizations like Maria Elena's own Community Action Board to help support that communication outreach. But yeah, Maria Elena, do you want to kind of respond to the conversation right now and your sense of the situation?
I do. Let me start off by saying that, relationships matter, and response travels at the, what's that saying? Response travels at the rate of trust. And I will tell you that in Santa Cruz County, we have worked with our county partners through, COVID. And they understand who the partners are. Santa Cruz County understands who is in what lane of service. Santa Cruz County trusts our CBO organizations and understand that we play a role in response. And we saw that, and we've been building and reinforcing the relationship with Santa Cruz County over the years since COVID, right? Since before COVID, but especially with COVID. And sadly, and I'm going to just tell you the truth, that trust doesn't exist with Monterey County. When we called a meeting the Monday after the shelters were open, and we, again, I'm speaking for the community-based organizations, the leadership of South County Triage, the Latino executive directors of the nonprofits in Watsonville, we met with the county partners of Monterey, and we said, here we are, this is who we are, this is what we do, let us help you. And the answer was, thank you and stand back. And I'm being completely honest with you. And we pressed, and the Monterey County agreed that the interpretation services that CAB could provide was the one area that they wanted support in. And that was 12 days ago. I'm happy to report that today I had a conversation with Monterey County. We have been building relationship and building trust over this response time. We had a conversation about contracting with our agency to do the work that we've been doing for 12 days at the shelter. But the trust wasn't there, the relationship wasn't there, and we were storming and norming for many first few days. Is it perfect today? It is not. It's night and day though. If you go to the shelter today, it is night and day if you were to have gone a week ago. So it's getting better. Our Monterey County partners agreed. So we've been meeting 3 times a week, initially every day, now 3 times a week, again, with that community-based group. And I want to acknowledge, I think Stephanie Baronlu is with me. I think Nancy's here. If you are a CBO partner, United Way is here. Keisha, I see you. Please identify yourself in the chat. We've been meeting to work with Monterey County to build trust and to build movement. This morning, we decided we meet on Mondays, and we handed over Monday meetings to Monterey County. They're going to continue meeting with us on Mondays. They're going to continue to build trust and the partnership. And we're going to get there. It's not in the same space that we are in Santa Cruz County, understandably, but we're going to get there. And so that's the truth. That's what happened. And I saw somebody's comment, right? They didn't ask for help. They didn't want help. You're absolutely correct. That's what happened. Can I add, I don't know, I have a list of some kind of political things. I have a question, a political question. And I know that there's nobody here from Monterey County, but I need to lean on our supervisor and David to help us understand the process. So I understood early on, there was about 5,900 people, families displaced. Do not quote me on that number. That is what I heard initially. I know that there's 400 folks in this shelter. There is not a number, a count for people living in cars. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking to what I know today. But Felipe and David or Cesar, what is the possibility of asking, can a board of supervisors of Monterey put in place an eviction moratorium? Because the reality is what our Ortega partner here was talking about, people aren't working and they're not going to work anytime soon. And they haven't worked for a very long time because of climate. My question is, so there's no revenue coming to these families. Yes, they're getting gift cards. Yes, they've gotten a little bit of economic relief. It's one-time relief, $500, maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500, maybe a USDA gift card for $600, maybe a Catholic Charities gift card for $250, not enough to pay rent. what is the possibility of an eviction moratorium? Can someone shed light on
Yeah,
that, please?
if I could help answer that, and hopefully that's okay, Felipe and Dave. Next Tuesday on the Board of Supervisors is that eviction moratorium for Pajaro. I think it was drafted by the Food Bank of Santa Cruz County Director Erica Padilla Chavez, and as a nonprofit. So just a little bit about her. So Milpa as an organization has been around for 10 years. We just opened up an office in Watsonville a year and a half ago, and we're 3 blocks away from the Pajaro Bridge. So even though I'm not new to this community, I've been working in labor and community stuff for a number of years. Most of my experience has been in Monterey County. So that's going to come before the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday. I know that I'm working with nonprofits in Monterey County. They're going to show up, and the political answer, Marilena, is I think we have the votes, but it doesn't mean that we can't show, that we shouldn't show up and make sure that they do what we need to do. The moratorium does ask for through the end of June. Hopefully it's long enough, because as you know, people are it's gonna be a delayed growing season. Growers, and the grower that was here, the farmer that was here earlier, I could tell you he can't plant anything right now, and then it's going to take a while for those plants to grow. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be out of work for longer than normal, even if they are picking crops in the in the middle of Monterey County or somewhere else. But to your political question, and I kind of want to walk away with 2 homeworks for everybody here. The one is to show up to the Monterey County Board of Supervisors next week.
Yes.
And say we need a moratorium, because the biggest percentage of the residents in Pajaro, and I would say the majority, are renters.
Yep.
It's a renters community. My fear is gentrification. Absentee landlords have been out of that don't live where they where their housing are, might use this as an excuse to get rid of tenants and try and raise rents. That's my cup half empty kind of thing. But I think people are gonna have a lot of pain if we don't have some kind of moratorium on the rent. So that's next Tuesday. And then the second is we need to activate FEMA to help those landlords and homeowners and everything else. And the only way we're going to be able to activate FEMA is that if the state sends it up to President Biden. And right now, the State Office of Emergency Services is assessing the whole state. Monterey County just finished their assessments today, and it means other counties need to finish it. There's now Dave knows it's not easy to declare a disaster at the state level, but we're close. Monterey County officials are telling me we met the threshold for that, but until that gets sent up to the president, so it's at the governor's office of emergency services. If there's some fire that needs to be put on their behinds to make sure that we get that going sooner than later, because as you know, in the disasters in January, we had FEMA vans and motorhomes and people in blue t-shirts saying FEMA within 3-4 days of the disaster happening. Dave was helping place them in Santa Cruz and Watsonville and everything else. They haven't even been activated yet. And so we need to do that. And then the renters in Pajaro need that assistance. So next Tuesday, Board of Supervisors, if it's okay, that everybody that attends here that's signed up, we could send an alert to say, at this time, the beauty of technology, you can show up by Zoom. So you could be at a coffee shop in Santa Cruz and say, your public comments there. But we need that passed next Tuesday. Hopefully we have the votes. I think we do, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for that question.
Can I respond? Can I say something, please?
Sure.
And we need a letter from Santa Cruz Black, and we need a letter from NAACP, and we need a letter from United Way. This is where you can stand with us. We need political pressure to make this stuff happen. And formalized letters, Erica wrote on behalf of the CBOs, we need your letters too. We need your calls. I see you, Joy, write and call. That's the help. You want to stand with your Latino sisters and brothers? That's what we need. And I'm going to add one more thing, SB 227, write it down, SB 227. It's to allow undocumented farm workers, undocumented people to apply for unemployment, to bring down their unemployment insurance. They do not qualify if they're undocumented, and SB 227 is a movement right now to allow them to draw unemployment.
Very important, very, very important. Thank you for mentioning that. What we're going to do after this call is I'm going to partner with our amazing communications intern. We're going to reach out to all the panelists and make sure that all of that critical information is captured in a flyer. So that way this community here can circulate that information to their own communities and can leverage and scale the outreach for that. So this has been a very critical conversation, and Cesar will definitely circle back with you about how folks can have more information about that. I know that there is additional conversation. I want to make sure that we stay focused on the family, and I also want to let folks know that we are going to have a very brief Q&A. So I'm going to ask for Chris to choose a few questions up until our restrained time, which is around 8:35. We're slated to end, but so we're going to move into a short Q&A. If folks have questions, please go ahead and ask them. Dave, I know you have your hand raised. Can you make it brief in about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to move into the affected family members, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A, okay?
Yeah, just really briefly, I want to highlight that FEMA, even activating FEMA is not going to help the community of Pajaro the way we need to help the community. And we need to recognize that both philanthropic efforts by, as Maria Elena said, to the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz and Community Foundation of Watsonville are going to be critical. But I do think that there's a state legislative requirement that we need to explore around recognizing that in disaster, our most vulnerable should not be ineligible for support. So we recognize the importance of undocumented workers in our community. They should be protected during a disaster, just like a citizen is. And so that's a big, big deal. FEMA is not going to help the undocumented residents of Pajaro. So we need to figure out how to help them and talk about that more.
Awesome.
So one little caveat is if they have children in the household, they are citizens, they can qualify for FEMA assistance too. So we had a lot of families that qualified for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you both. Thank you all for that critical information. I want to go ahead and bring in Elizabeth now, who was here earlier to talk a little bit about her experience in school. Elizabeth, hi, welcome. Let me clear up some of these so that we can see you better. Hey, Elizabeth. So, we know that, according to the Lookout, there was flooding of the Pajaro community that left families without incomes, potentially without homes to return to, for about 900 students, I think, and it might be a little bit more now if we have some updated numbers for the Pajaro Valley Unified School Districts. The Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds, last time I checked, was holding about 400 families, and we can double check those figures in the chat if folks have that updated number. And the Cabrillo College at that time had about 50 evacuees. And so, all 420 students in Pajaro Middle School, which is located in Pajaro, will be having instruction at Lakeville Middle School for likely the rest of the year because of the flooding damages at Pajaro Middle. So, I wanted to ask you, what would make it easier for you as a student to concentrate better at school, considering that you and your family are dealing with this really devastating situation? What could help let you stay concentrated in school?
And can we just clarify that her younger brother is a student at that middle school? She goes to Watsonville High School. So she's speaking on his behalf. He's too shy to.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, my brother does go to Pajaro Middle School. And when we found out that he was going to Lakeview, it was pretty surprised because that was my middle school, but it will be harder on my mom because she works a lot. So she had to drop him off, pick him up every afternoon. And it's a good thing that her boss gave her permission to go. But then she has to stay a little bit longer. but it's been really hard on her. But hopefully when they open the bridge and we can stay, hopefully there's like bus transportation. So he can like go all over there. So my mom doesn't have to pick him up, drop him off, because it's been really hard for her.
Mm. And yeah, I wanted to check in to see, what kinds of community resources can we give your family to support them in their immediate needs. So is there any kind of element like food, clothing, Wi-Fi, shoes that has become a priority in helping you recover from these flood impacts?
To be honest, right now we're good. But in the beginning, like my brother didn't have enough clothes. And like it's because he thought it was gonna be like the last time, like on January when it happened again. But like nothing happened, nothing flooded. And he only brought like 2 pairs of pants and like a little bit of shirts. And someone from my church texted me. She was like, "Oh, do you need anything?" I was like, "No, I'm fine. I have everything." But not my brother. And she went out of her way, went to the store, brought him clothes, and she helped us. And there's so many people helping us. It's been great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for speaking, on behalf of your family and being a leader in these really, devastating times. So thank you for taking that leadership with your family and speaking on behalf of us. And we're going to be here to amplify and support anything you need. Maria Elena, I just wanted to double check in with you. I know that the Community Action Board and your partnerships with other CBOs have tried to centralize resources. Where can families who have been impacted by this flooding, where can they find those resources that you guys have centralized?
Great question. And I can share the flyer with you to get it to everyone here. So for the storm economic relief program that is funded through philanthropic dollars for one-time assistance for folks. Again, we know it's not enough. It's not going to be enough, but it's something. They can call or go to the FRC, the Community Bridges Fund, La Manzana, to access resources, or any other family resource center in the community. And I can we have a flyer with all the phone numbers, Ayo, along with, we have an indigenous language line at CAB, and that line is answered in Mixteco, Enrique, and Zapoteco. And so if there's a family who needs support, who doesn't speak Spanish or English, we invite them to use that line, where we have someone, they leave a message, or we have people calling certain hours, picking up, so that we can get them to get that support. Also, I want to acknowledge that Community Ventures is activating UndocuFund Monterey Bay. So that's going to be activated again. And so again, there's other ways to give, right? Other ways and other avenues to give. And so I just want to say that so families for economic relief, to go through the family resource centers, to go through the Indigenous hotline, and also to continue to connect, right? Quiero invitar a la familia en la casa de Chris que vaya al centro de Lunisol, que está a la vuelta. Hay ayuda con la tarea, hay un grupo para los padres, está directamente a dar la vuelta de la casa de Chris. I want to invite the family that's staying at Chris to the Lunisol Familia Center, where they can get help with their homework, they can do fun stuff, they can meet other young people, and it's right around the corner from Chris's house. Chris, you know where we are.
I know.
Please connect.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria Elena. Thank you so much. And Chris, again, let me know if there's any community Q&A in the chat. It looks like we answered most of the questions already. But I want to check in with you, Stephanie. I know that you're here visiting. Do you want to talk a little bit more about any other resources that haven't been already mentioned that you'd like to plug for the community right now?
Gosh, thanks so much, Ayo. I really just appreciate everyone's hard work, because this really is devastating. This really is a humanitarian crisis, and this is with our littles. This is with our little ones. I really just want to again uplift what Maria Elena shared as far as, CBOs really stepping in and really supporting. So again, not just our CBO partners such as Community Bridges, Catholic Charities, CAB, but also mutual aid projects that we know are really plugged into the community, such as the Center for Farm Working Families. They have a monthly distribution shed that will be happening again. I believe it's the first Friday of April. And so that's, again, that Center for Farm Working Families. There's also Campesina Womb Justice. I believe that they have, again, been really successful in their fundraising efforts, and their hope is to trust families with, cash aid. Really, our families in the Pajaro Valley, they're scrappy, like they can really stretch a dollar. And so again, being able to trust these families with giving them cash assistance for what they need. And I appreciate that Joy lifted up in the chat about the churches. So from day one, we were able to count with grassroots efforts to collect donations and place them in the hands of families. We have Casa de la Cultura, who actually has a mobile van, who has been driving them to the actual Pajaro Bridge. For a period of time, we actually had families sleeping there at the bridge, just really craving, really just hungry for knowledge as far as what was going on with their homes, when would they receive that access. I want to again just thank CAB. They are holding informational sessions as far as like immigration support, understanding, if you lost your documents, if you arrived to your house and now they're, ineligible to use them as actual documents. They're really working with the Mexican consulate to establish IDs, to really, again, it's just every piece of this is going to be painful in the process, but these are CBOs that are well trusted in our community to really just hold families' hands. And so again, just want to really encourage you all, if you can't donate time, if you can't donate, your energy to physically support with the debris removal and the cleanup process, to please let your dollars be that moral compass that's invested in our community. I won't take up any more space, but again, just the last plug for a resource is the Salvation Army. It's more of a case-by-case basis, but they have been supporting families with vouchers for hotels, families who have special needs, with children with special needs or medically fragile children. San Andreas Regional Center has also been supporting with hotel vouchers. The hard part is that many organizations already have their existing internal lists of families that they have been working with over a long period of time. And so when you're a family that has already really slipped through the cracks and is not plugged into resources, your need is then further exacerbated. And so again, just really appreciate the call for dignity and compassion for these families.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing that critical information with our community. Nancy, I wanted to make sure that I gave you space as well to share any other additional information that hasn't already been shared. Do you want to go ahead and take some space and share some resources for the community that they can use, especially the families, to help navigate this really critical situation?
Am I the Nancy that is being called on?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm with the Climate Action Group. This is a climate disaster that has struck home, and it's important to notice that and keep saying that this is what is unfortunately expected. But I put in the chat that Monterey County is saying the 211 call on the phone is a way to ask for food or clothing or things that are needed. I didn't realize that until a couple of days ago. So that's one thing that people can resource. And I think people are here from Raíces y Cariño, but there is a distribution center at 118 First Street that people can walk up to and get things. Those are a couple of resources. I do want to say our team, we have a little team, but we have gone out a couple of times to the bridge just to talk to people, listen to stories, and try to do a little bit of connecting to resources. And as people have talked about here tonight, it's very uneven what people have accessed and what they haven't, and what information people have gotten, and mostly where there are a lot of gaps. So whatever people that you have contact with, you, if you can help them see the status of their home on the map that is now available on the Monterey website. People are going to need help cleaning up. It's just, so I think whatever we can do to person make human connections with people and help somebody directly, I think would be really good, but it's very uneven.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that as this conversation has been evolving. So thank you, Nancy, for bringing us that critical information. I see there's one question in the audience. I'll invite you to ask your question briefly, and then I'll have Cesar close us out with some other resources, and I'll follow up with Felipe on some of his hopes for the future moving forward. Carmen, did you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, good evening. Thank you everybody for all the amazing work that you're doing. I'm with El Pajaro Community Development Corporation, and we help businesses. And so we have been doing assessment of the businesses that we serve and other businesses here in the community. And what we've seen is that there's a lot of the business, a majority of the business have been impacted in one way or another, but obviously businesses, small businesses in Pajaro, are the most affected. Many of them are not going to be able to reopen. So our organization will be able to support them, but we're looking for those resources right now. And I want to say that in terms of us finding support, which is access to capital for most of it, we really need the declaration of the disaster for both the state and the federal government. We've been trying and talking to a lot of people about it, and things seem to be moving very slow. So I'm all there for us to, continue advocating. The state has the ability of bringing resources to the even 18 business owners. So I think that's very important. I mean, we're there to support them. I'll be sharing the survey that we sent out in case you have small business owners that and want to share. Many of those businesses are home-based businesses. We have people that live in Pajaro but have a business in Watsonville, and that has impacted them, tremendously also. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up. The small business community is very important, especially, and everywhere, because what is happening has impacted everybody around here in other areas. So
absolutely. Carmen, thank you so much for the work that you're doing with El Pajaro, and thank you so much for the emotional labor that you are also carrying. And Mireya, Elena, and everybody else, Cesar, all of you for doing so much labor for our community to support them and show up in this really critical time. Cesar, I see that you have your hand raised. Did you want to add on to some of the resources?
Yeah, just real quick. We've been helping as many of the residents that we've been touched by in Milpa, and we're actually in the process of raising some money, and we'll be reaching out to everybody here to hold an event. We really want to focus on the youth, and the second too is because Milpa has been around longer in Monterey County, a group of nonprofits have been trying to help out here from Monterey County, and we've been kind of pushed back. We tried with the county and got a little bit of pushback, County of Monterey. And we did reach out to some of the nonprofit leaders here, and I think our attempts were taken negatively. And so, Maria Elena and everybody else, maybe we could talk offline and figure that out, because we have a group of nonprofits that are ready to help out, but we're trying to get plugged in, and we're not getting the welcome, come on in, let's figure this out, because this is Monterey County residents. So, once again, before we leave, we have to ask. One is we need to make sure that the State Office of Emergency Services at the state level activate the emergency declaration to activate the federal governments. And that's, it's taking a process, but it's going slower than what we need it to go, and we need it to go faster. And then the second is next week, the moratorium on renters in Pajaro is going to be on the agenda. We need to do that because that's going to be immediate impact. That will be, no matter, $2 or $3 or $4 or $500 gift cards. If people are kicked out of their renter units, that's going to be major pain. And as you know, the vacancy rate in both Monterey and Santa Cruz County is huge, and the cost to find a new apartment is huge. And so we need to do that. And thank you for this great gathering. And we look forward to continuing the conversation, not just today, but through the whole recovery period, because there's been a lot of trauma that's been created here. Thank you.
And can I say one thing? And I want to give Cheryl an opportunity to speak as well, but I just want to say in closing, Santa Cruz Black, we are the smallest percentage in this community, but we stand in solidarity with, this is my community too. Like, I live 5 minutes from the Pajaro Bridge. So I don't want to get emotional. So I just want to say, like, this is my community too. And I don't think it's always realized that way, but this is my, like, Carmen talking about the small businesses, like, that's the commercial kitchen that my business operates out of. Like, this is me. So I just don't, I'm gonna stop there. And if Cheryl wants to say anything, but
yeah. Thanks so much, Chris. I'll have Cheryl speak right when we're closing. I just want to make sure I check in. Felipe, is there anything that you're hopeful for? Is there something? I know Nancy had just mentioned that there is some, about 300K in supportive planning for a project. Is there anything that's giving you hope right now for the future? Something that's making you feel really good about what's to come?
Well, some of the things that we would like to see is 3 things, right? Our river that we have, the Pajaro River was, it was a 25-year flood protection that it had, but that was back in the 40s, right? So one of the things that we'd like to see is for that project to get expedited. It's scheduled for 2026, but if we could move it 1 year ahead for 2025, that'd be great. But the other thing is, back in March back in January, when December 31st, when we had some potential of breaching, some of those areas where we had some of the potentials of breaching, it was actually up by mile marker 9. And it was in a location where this new project didn't cover. The project that we're doing doesn't cover, and where it actually breached closer to mile marker 10 this month, it doesn't cover this flood project, 100-year flood project. It doesn't cover that area. So it would be good if we can go back and do a 2.0 with the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers and have them cover it. And the reason it didn't cover it is because, again, going back to that cost benefit analysis, right? And you talk about inequity. This is literally the opposite of equity, right? This is inequity at its finest, right? Saying that we couldn't get this project because, because of the community didn't make enough money or their properties weren't worth enough. So we want to see if that'd be one great thing if we can go back and do a 2.0, still expedite our project that we have and make sure we get that project done and expedite it, but do a 2.0 and cover the 2 parts that breached. Because there's past the highway, this 100-year flood project doesn't cover either. So if we can go back to the Corps of Engineers, go back to Zoe Lofgren and even Panetta to team up so that we can get this 2.0 project and cover the areas that actually breached. Because this flood protection that we've got, it covers the majority from this area closer to the core of town, but not the areas actually breached and flooded Pajaro. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see, and actually expedite it too as well. Right. And the third thing would be is making sure that the state replenishes its funds for to get this project started, to initiate the project as well. So those are the 3 things that I'm hopeful for. And I think that if we continue the pressure and continue, with the banner of equity, I think that we could probably do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Felipe, We are leading on your leadership right now. You've heard from all these community organizations here who've said they are ready to write these letters, they are ready to organize, they are ready to mobilize and do what's necessary. So we are absolutely going to follow up with you and see how we move forward when it comes to making sure we expedite this process for our communities. Thank you so much for you being here. Maria Elena, you are a gift and a blessing, and we appreciate and love you so much. Thank you so much for all the work and the advocacy and the direct services that you've been doing. Your work is not going unnoticed, and we are here to amplify and support you in any way that we can. Thank you so much for being here, Maria Elena. I want to close out with Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, you know, we've heard from all of these incredible panelists, and obviously, like, you know, a lot of the biggest takeaways is, you know, trying to make sure that we support these eviction moratorium, make sure that we can expedite certain resources for our community. And we heard, you know, some of the hopes of, you know, Felipe and how he wants to move forward. You know, let's hear from you. What is your thoughts on the conversation tonight, and what are you hopeful for?
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming, especially, I'm so grateful. I want to also thank Keisha for making it happen, for making Maria Elena, bringing that together. It was just a text messaging. We were messaging last night. So that is how connections work. What I want to say is I'm thanking everyone for being here, and I'm glad someone brought up the word structural racism. I said societal issues for the express purpose. I didn't want to say it. I don't want to push issues onto people. I want you to name the thing, and you named the thing. And I think that's what's driving the slow response. And I think it's a slow response because I think it was a pretty fast response when we had the storms in January to what was happening. So when President Biden came through. So I think it's a real, if you understand, if you catch my drift, what I'm getting at here. So I think that clearly, historically, we all know that Black and Brown communities are marginalized and forgotten about. So yes, Santa Cruz Black does stand in solidarity with our Brown brothers and sisters, without a doubt. One of the reasons why we had this, but we put this thing on. The other reason I would like to see, my hope is I'd like to see a more educational type of forum where we understand better what is a levee. Okay, how can it get breached? Honestly, because I mean, these are things, you know, we can Google it. Google's our friend, yes. But if we have people who know this, go ahead. It's just a little bit. Who reads the Army Corps of Engineering's reports? I mean, these are things that I would like to, I mean, I can find that out, but I think that those are important pieces of information that the general public does not know. All of us might know. And so that's my hope, to see something a little bit more educational. And what is potable water? I mean, I think it was about 20, 30 years ago, when a long time ago, that I learned there was such a thing called potable water. I thought he was saying portable. And so I said, "Do you mean portable?" No. And we had a long conversation.
That's what I've been thinking too. Look, Cheryl,
No,
I've been thinking
this
that
was
too.
30 years ago when my son's father was traveling and he was telling me, and I'm like, potable water? What?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't know what potable water is. I think what makes it safe. I think people don't understand. I mean, we do understand when you travel from one country to another that you might have to take certain types of pills for viruses and other stuff that, anyways, because I can't even think of what it is that will give you. But I think we need be a little bit more educational, not assume that all of us know, because nobody's going to say it. Nobody wants to appear like you don't know, but it's okay. It's okay not to know. I got old enough to know it's okay not to know. You ask. So that's my hope. I think this went well. I'm really happy that to hear from everyone, and I'm somewhat disappointed that no one from Monterey could make it over here, with the exception of the representatives from the organizations that deal with both counties.
Yeah.
That in particular, no, I'm not going to say that. Okay. So thank you, Ayo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria Elena. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you, Felipe. Who else spoke? There was the
Ed Ortega,
Ed Ortega,
Carmen,
Carmen,
Dave Reed from the county.
Dave Reed. Remember you, Dave? Do you remember me?
Thank you for all your additions, Keisha and Joy in the chat as well. And thank you to everybody who made this happen. Thank you to the Resource Center for Nonviolence for supporting us in our IT operations for this Zoom event. And thank you, Chris, for all your support with the family. And thank you so much to Elizabeth. You are a leader and a beacon of hope in your family. We love you so much, and we will continue to be here. We will have a follow-up conversation with you very soon, and we will make sure that these resources are pipelined for our community. So thank you everyone for making this event happen. Reach out to us if you have any additional questions. We'll try our best to redirect you to organizations that are at the forefront of this conversation, and we'll continue these really critical discussions. So thank you so much. I'll put my contact email in the chat. Cheryl, put yours as well. I will close out with some jazz music for folks to leave out. But other than that, we are free to go. You are free to have the rest of your night. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your night, everybody.
Hold up for one. Carmen and Judy have questions, and Jessica have questions. Can we get that answered before if people are willing to stay?
We can. I know that we are a little bit over time. I wish we could have. We will have a follow-up forum very soon. Jessica and Carmen, please, if you would like to stay after, please stay after so we can have that conversation. And if folks would like to hear the conversation after, feel free to stay after. But for now, we'll let the rest of you folks go. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Hi. Thank you. It was just a quick announcement, but that's okay. I'll send it on an email.
Thanks so much.